Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Taylor Combaluzia, a mining analyst at Red Cloud Securities. Today's webinar features Bunker Hill Mining. Bunker Hill is working to restart the historic Bunker Hill silver, lead, and zinc mine located in Kellogg, Idaho. It's located in the world-class Coeur d'Alene mining district and produced 35 million tons of ore concentrate historically. Since 2020, a new leadership team comprised of former executives from Barrick Gold has been in place. Today I have on the webinar with me Sam Ash, who's the CEO and director at Bunker Hill Mining. The format of today's webinar will be comprised of two parts. In the first part, Sam will provide an update on Bunker Hill, and then in the second part, we'll take your questions live. So please send us your questions using the chat, and we'll get to as many as we can. I'll note that you can type your questions in at any point throughout today's presentation. To start, I'll handle the disclosures, and then I'll turn it over to Sam. So for Bunker Hill Mining, there may be some forward-looking statements made on this call. I would direct listeners to the cautionary note on page 2 of the Bunker Hill corporate presentation located on the company's website. For Red Cloud Securities Inc., I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or recommendation to buy or sell securities. And we note that this call does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. Please see our most recent research located on our website for Bunker Hill specific disclosures. So now I'll turn it over to Sam to discuss the company and what you have to look forward to.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be presenting and talking to everyone about an update on progress at the Bunker Hill mine. And I think I'll start by just reminding everyone of Bunker Hill and start with kind of 3 or 4 levels of value creation that we're seeking to unlock, and the value that we see in this asset to be a cornerstone asset of a multi-asset mining company. First and foremost, we are going to be restarting the Bunker Hill mine at 1,800 tons a day by the middle of 2026. In conjunction with that, in that first horizon of value creation, we will also seek to uplist to the New York Stock Exchange, potentially before the end of the year. Beyond that, we're looking through exploration to rebalance and bring more silver into the mine plan, and ideally target an area where we are 50-50 silver from a revenue perspective. At the moment, we are more heavily weighted towards zinc, but we do think, based on the historic production and history of the mine and the exploration potential exists, that we have the potential to move towards a more balanced 50-50 split on the revenue perspective between silver and base metals. Beyond that, we see an additional tier of value creation to be realized through Bunker Hill 2.0, where we look to expand the production of the mine from 1,800 tons a day to 2,500 tons a day, largely funded with $150 million of import-export financing from the United States government, which we have a letter of intent for, and we are currently in the underwriting process for. That could take 12 to 18 months to work through that process before we're able to begin that expansion. And then finally, the synergies and the opportunities for consolidation that exist in the Silver Valley. And as we move forward, I'll just give you a bit more context about the Bunker Hill mine, where it sits in the Silver Valley, and why we think that the Silver Valley is a real up-and-coming mining jurisdiction in the United States. So to start with, Silver Valley has a long track record of production, and over 1.2 billion ounces of silver have been produced to date. Of that, Bunker Hill has produced 165 million ounces of silver, in conjunction with the 35 million tons of base metals, which Taylor referenced in the introduction. In fact, Bunker Hill was a strategic resource and the only asset that was able to support a vertically integrated lead and zinc smelting operation for over 100 years worth of production. When you look across the Silver Valley, there's a couple of distinct advantages that the Bunker Hill mine has in relation to the Silver Valley. One, We are 100% patented mining claims and 100% private land. And that's why we've been able to come from a position where we didn't own the asset just 5 years ago to where we're going to be going into production in the first half of 2026. We have a very significant land package that, in large part, 2/3 of which remains unexplored with modern exploration techniques. We have a portal access, which gives us some structural advantages from our operating cost basis, because we don't have any shaft access or shaft operations planned in the Bunker Hill mine. We're coming out with an 1,800 ton a day processing plant, which will make us the largest processing facility in the Silver Valley. And we're well advanced on construction with over 70% completion on a total project basis, 98% of the procurement complete, and the process plant over 80% complete at this point today. Going on to the processing facility, you can see this in the picture here. That's the crusher tower in the foreground, followed by the processing facility and the mill building in the background. We're now over 80% complete. What remains is largely finishing up the pipe work, finishing up the electrical and instrumentation work. We are now moving our focus, which is our critical path, onto the tails filtration plant, where we will be pouring over our first 300-yard pour of concrete in the coming week, and expecting to complete that construction over the next 6 to 8 months in advance of us beginning commissioning in the first half of next year. You can see just a couple of more pictures here. The one on the top left is the current state of the processing facility on the interior. All of the major equipment has been placed. The mills, the differential flotation circuit, the concentrate thickening and filtration. In the center picture, you see the crusher tower with the conveyors going to the concentrate loadout area. And on the right-hand side, you see the foundation preparation for the tails filtration plant, which is going to be a 300-yard pour coming up in the next 7 to 10 days. As I said, tails filtration is the critical path to the project. And the good news is that all of the structural steel is purchased and will be arriving on an on-time basis to site. And the largest single cost component of the tails filtration plant is the tails filter itself, which is at site and ready to be installed as the foundations and structural steel advance. In the underground, all of the capital development is done for the first 3 to 5 years of the mine life. We are advancing our secondary development and stope layout, and we're currently stockpiling ore, and we'll have a significant stockpile of ore by the time we go into production in late H1 of 2026. We're well positioned on the cost curve, sitting at right around 77 cents a pound on a zinc equivalent basis. And really, this bodes well, particularly in a rising metal price environment. And just helpful to remind everyone that Bunker Hill is now going to be producing 3 critical metals on the U.S. critical metals supply chain: lead, zinc, and silver, with silver and lead joining the critical metals list within the last month or two. We are well positioned from a cost perspective because of the low cost power, 6 cents a kilowatt hour for long-term power price. Portal access allows us to have a low underground operating cost, and our proximity to infrastructure being less than a mile away from the Interstate 90, an hour and a half away from the Spokane Valley and the light industrial that exists there, and 300 kilometers from the smelter that will have all of our offtake, which is the Trail smelter in British Columbia, run by Teck Metals. We have 5 years worth of reserves on the books, and I'm actually very happy and very comfortable with that level of reserve, particularly in context of the history of the mine. What I'm showing here is the reserve base from 1967 through 1981. And you can see there's a strong track record of reserve replacement over this period of time. I could extend this all the way back to 1900. The story would be the same, but needless to say, that there is a long track record of reserve replacement at Bunker Hill that we expect to continue. And that's based more than just the history. It's also based on our resource base. So we have 14 million tons in mineral inventory, 7 million tons in measured and indicated, and another 7 million tons in inferred mineralization. And if you just consider 75% resource conversion from the inferred into the measured and indicated category, you very quickly can see a pathway from a 5-year life of mine into a 13 to 14-year life of mine. Beyond that resource conversion, will be actively looking to increase the quality of the resource, primarily focused on bringing silver and silver opportunities in the near mine exploration into the resource to strengthen the silver component of the resource, which at these silver prices will have a significant impact on project economics. It can also be helpful in terms of mine life to look and compare our two technical reports. The first being a preliminary economic assessment published in November of 2021, and the pre-feasibility published in September of 2022. The main difference here is the inclusion of inferred resource at a 75% conversion rate in the PEA. And so that gives you a sense of the reserve expansion that we expect to realize in the near term as we begin mining operations and have capital to deploy more aggressively towards resource conversion. On an exploration front, the mineral endowment has only had modern exploration done over about a third of the claim package. And the nice thing about this is that we've done some preliminary geophysics, and we see significant exploration opportunities that were identified through that program. Now, it suggests the strong presence of sulfide mineralization, and until we're able to do some drill testing, we won't know exactly what we have there. But certainly at this point, the potential exists for a new discovery on a scale equal to and perhaps larger than the existing mine footprint at the Bunker Hill mine. From a silver perspective, we do know that when the mine went into closure, there was 4 high-grade silver veins being mined at the 4,000-foot level at Bunker Hill. There was never any exploration or resource expansion drilling done below the shaft bottom, and we would expect, and there is no geologic reason why the mineralization would not continue. Now that gives us some real compelling opportunity for additional silver within the Bunker Hill mine footprint. And keep in mind that Bunker Hill was the largest mine in the Silver Valley and produced 165 million ounces of silver, essentially as a byproduct, and only was mined down to the 4,000-foot level. In comparison, Lucky Friday has reserves down to around 9,000 feet. The Corcalina complex is working down around 6,000 feet. And even the Sunshine Mine, the largest historic silver producer in the Silver Valley, was down around 6,000 feet when the mine was closed. So we see that even within the existing mine footprint, there is significant upside potential, in particular as it relates to silver. When we're talking about value creation and the re-rating potential that exists for the Bunker Hill mine, we see it really in a couple of tiers. That first tier being a re-rate that we will realize as we transition from a development project into an operation and into an operating mine. We see that happening over the next 6 to 9 months as we transition through the commissioning phase and into full production in the first half of 2026. Secondarily to that, we see that there's a significant re-rate potential available to us as we begin to transition and bring more silver into the plan and be viewed by the market as a more significant silver producer as opposed to a base metal producer. And then beyond that, we see the opportunity for additional re-rate as we increase the throughput from 1,800 tons a day to 2,500 tons a day. And finally, as we look further afield, the opportunity for consolidation that exists within the Silver Valley presents an intriguing opportunity for further value creation. Just a little bit more about our expansion project. It's essentially increasing the throughput to 2,500 tons a day by focusing on the bottleneck of the total operation, which at the moment is underground haulage. The main investment in Bunker Hill 2.0 would be a new portal to access the lower levels of the resource and install an electrified conveyor and transition the haulage from diesel haulage to electric haulage, leveraging the 6 cents a kilowatt hour mining or electrical cost that we have at the mine to support a 30% increase in throughput, while at the same time realizing unit cost reductions associated with scale. And so when we look ahead, we see that there are really 3 horizons of value creation that are coming up for the Bunker Hill mine. The first one, a re-rating associated with transitioning into production and uplisting to the New York Stock Exchange and becoming traded on the American Exchange. The silver upside related to the ability to rebalance the resource and to begin the process of becoming a 50-50 silver base metal mine from a revenue mix. And finally, the opportunity for organic expansion and throughput increase up to 2,500 tons a day, and looking forward to opportunities in consolidation within the Silver Valley. As you can see, our capital structure, after the last financing that we've done, the balance sheet is much stronger, and we have strong partnerships with Sprott Royalty and Streaming and Tech Resources, who are now strong supporters aligned with the restart of Bunker Hill. And with that, I would take any questions that anyone has. Taylor, if you're asking me a question, your sound is not coming through. You may be on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you, Taylor.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So we'll turn over to the questions now. Just a reminder to everybody in the line that you can type your questions in at any point. We have a few that have come in here. The first one, just wondering if there's any impact from tariffs on using the BC smelter.
At the moment, there is not any impacts on tariffs. So we are a seller of our product to Teck Metals and the Trail smelter. So at the moment, there is not any impact of tariffs to our cost structure or our operation.
Okay, perfect. 2 questions here, just regards to potential share consolidation before a New York Stock Exchange listing. Is that something that you would entertain?